Next segment, talking about the federal government shutdown. Specifically today, some big news coming from the White House Budget Office, saying that mass firings of federal workers have started. This is an attempt by President Trump to exert more pressure on Democratic lawmakers as the government shutdown has now dragged into a 10th day. We heard from Russ Vought earlier today. He is the director of the Office of Management and Budget. He said on social media that the rifts have begun, referring to reduction in force plans, RIF, reduction in force plans aimed at reducing the size of the federal government. A spokesperson for the Budget Office said that the reductions are, quote, substantial, but didn't offer more details. Oh, here's the post himself from Vought. The rifts have begun, he says. We do have 24 sites. Tom Lobianco standing by. Busy week. You and I were just talking offline, Tom. So much going on, and now we have this developing story. We're hearing now of layoffs. The administration initiating these layoffs instead of the traditional furloughs during a shutdown, or I should say in addition to the traditional furloughs during a shutdown. Tom, is this an aggressive political strategy, or could there be a defensible policy rationale for this?
It's brinksmanship. It's arm twisting. I mean, you know, if you listen to the Democrats on this, the argument you hear from the Democrats and the left is that this was already going to happen and this is just a reason to do it. If you listen to Trump and the Republicans and the White House, they're saying, no, the Democrats are doing this to you, particularly the Senate Democrats, because they won't agree to the terms of, you know, to any terms, really, with regards to the any kind of health care measure, agree to debate a health care measure, a stopgap plan, you know, you name it, with regards to, you know, that backup option that John Thune, the Senate Majority Leader, was talking about a little while ago regarding an actual regular budgeting process, which is like a unicorn around here these days. I don't think we've seen one of those in like 20 years. But it's a cudgel more than anything. And you have to look at these things in terms of the impact and how it's being received by the public. And you're starting to see this. You know, House Speaker Mike Johnson did a call-in on C-SPAN and Washington Journal yesterday. And there was a moment from that where, you know, a woman calls in. She's the mother, I believe, of some veterans, or might have been active duty, and she's pressing him on this because it's you know, military and veterans aren't getting paid now, or about to not get paid in this. So, you know, in the early days of this, you can kind of get away with negotiating and what have you, but this is where it starts. This is where the rubber hits the road, and you're starting to see the public really hit back on this stuff, because it's starting to hit people.
I have to amend something. You didn't see this, Tom, but our countdown timer just had an erroneous number on it, and we have to acknowledge it, because it just said that the shutdown was, I believe, 750 days in progress. We have now fixed it. That is not true. We are 9 days and 20 hours. We just didn't make that entirely clear because it did make it to air for a moment. I was as surprised as you were when I first saw it, Tom.
750 days.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, lots more to discuss. A live look at the White House just past 8 p.m. in the nation's capital. So the layoffs, again, I'm going to fixate on this for a moment. How might this escalation affect the balance of leverage between the White House and congressional Democrats and Republicans as well? Does this force more pressure on Congress to get something done early next week?
A couple ways to look at it. You can look at it in terms of, all right, you know, are these going to be, you know, permanent rifts, permanent, as you know, their reduction in force layoffs? Is it the type of thing where it's like DOGE, where people get called back into this? You know, there's been some reporting out there on the rift between Russ Vought and Elon Musk early in the administration, specifically because Vought is a longtime operator. I think we talked about this about a week ago. You know, he's a longtime operator who really understands the mechanics of things, and he's very serious about this stuff. This is something that if you're a longtime conservative, it's not every conservative, but for a number of conservatives who really wanted to actually contract government, reduce the size of government, this is a policy goal. All right. This is something that folks, have been looking for many years, to shrink the size and the power of the federal government, or at least the federal bureaucracy, things which have been in place for, almost 100 years now, really since the time of FDR and the original progressives. But the question then becomes, all right, how much leverage do you lose, right? Because you start eating into things which are policy priorities, right? Like, once you start taking away, we have the guns and butter debate, so to say, in terms of where money goes, right? Does it go to domestic spending? Does it go to overseas? Does it go to the Department of War, the Department of Defense? However you want to coin that. All these things, as they say, are you cutting to the bone? And when you say cutting to the bone, that means different things to different people because, look, the Trump White House has policy priorities here. I mean, clearly we see the ICE raids and the ICE actions that are going on. That's a policy priority which requires money, which was passed earlier this year in the One Big Beautiful Bill over the summer. So I don't know that it's it's hard to tell how much of it is permanent versus performative in the moment. And the big question here, look, Mike Johnson canceled votes for next week. There's already talk that this might stretch into the end of the month, but again, that can change on a dime. All right, it's things are very heightened right now, but it could flip back to normal if the pressure is hard enough.
So, are there signals of dissent in any capacity from what you've seen? Is there any signal of concern from Republicans, especially from more moderate or institutionalist wings, about the use of layoffs as a political tool?
This is, I was talking with my colleague Julie Grace about this a little while ago, and Julie Grace has been doing a lot of great reporting up on the Hill. Um, it is so weird to see. It's not. This is not directly with the layoffs, but it's a tangential and somewhat related. Marjorie Taylor Greene coming in on the healthcare, right? Which is, here I am referring to her as Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene as opposed to MTG, right? And this is and some of this tacking that you see, this is also why you have the hallway showdowns with Mike Lawler confronting Jeffries outside the House studios, right in the basement, right underneath the House chambers, because you're starting to see folks. I mean, what did he confront him with, right? If you strip away the screaming, the yelling, the performative aspect of it, the kind of the in your face New York piece of it, what he presented him with was, he said, well, no, this is our healthcare bill. Like, okay, you want to talk about healthcare? Let's talk about healthcare. And you're starting to see, so in a normal sense, I mean, I know things certainly don't look normal these days, but that's actually a very normal legislative process right there. You d- Even on the floor, people do poke fingers on each other's chest. Maybe not as much as they used to in the 1800s, but but this is a very normal process, and something that I've thought about a lot in our modern environment where we see so much happening in real time, right? We're constantly plugged into social media. We have the constant news alerts and whatnot. Is that so much of this stuff is stuff we would not be witnessing, all right, or we wouldn't really care to pay attention to. But now we all get the fire hose, and in one sense, it's great because this is fundamentally small d democratic, right? Raw information for us to make decisions with. But in another sense, this is stuff that's always happened. It's just that we didn't have as much access to it before.
So, you alluded to the idea that there's already some chatter about this thing extending to perhaps the later portion of the month. Is there anything to suggest that there's any hope that it could get resolved sometime sooner than that? There's an infinite amount of variables that can change between now and next week. Is there anything to suggest that people should have some hope soon?
Yes, poll numbers.
Hmm.
I mean, look, functionally, everybody is. Oh, sorry. video cut out there.
You look a
I don't
little
know what the heck
blurry on us
happened with
there,
it.
Tom.
Let me go to my FaceTime camera. There we go. All right. What's up, backup? There we go. I don't know why that keeps happening on my cell phone. Look, everybody has to get reelected. Okay. Everybody is running for their job constantly. That's why you see Mike Lawler doing so much of this stuff. He is one of those moderate Republicans who you mentioned earlier, potentially in trouble. You can really, if you look at, and frankly, you have me thinking about things I need to get on top of over at 24 site. I need to get on top of the midterms coverage because that's really driving a lot of this. If you look at people who are running, I saw Wesley Hunt just announced for Texas in the Senate primary. You look at things in terms of political ambitions, and that's nothing new. Right? Everybody does that. That's entirely normal. But it does impact this. You look at the Senate Democrats who are making decisions here, and it can really flip, one way or another. Folks like Gene Shaheen up in New Hampshire, who is not running again, so potentially could be urged to vote to end this, or could say the heck with it, I'm not running again, I can do what I want. So these are the flip sides of the political coin here. And back to my flippant comment was so flippant and flipped off the iPhone camera, so now we're on here. It comes down to the poll numbers. I really think that is what would push people here.
Tom Lobianco joining us tonight. Now from a slightly shorter position than he was at the beginning of the interview. How can people check out 24 Site's coverage?
Head on over to, let's see if I can get it. Oh, there we go. 24 Site News. Haha.
Hey, there it
24
is.
Site News, 24sight.news. And sign up. Got a real interesting interview earlier this week with Ben and Jerry, Ben Cohen of Ben and Jerry's. He talked about why Jerry left the company. So I do the Tom Lobianco reports every day, Monday through Friday at noon over there. We're covering all of this. Julie Grace has had a lot of great reporting on these hallway showdowns that have been happening, and we are all over this thing.
Good to see you, Tom. Have a good weekend.
Awesome. Thanks, Austin.
All right, the time in the nation's capital.